in the last week alone, Google revealed, I think, well over a dozen AI projects that it's been working on in various and very widely different areas. And these projects give us a pretty cool glimpse of the near future of artificial intelligence. And so these announcements break down into two broad categories. There's what we might call AI for like social issues, social good, and then there's some more generative AI experimental projects. So, on the social good front, Google revealed AI that does a pretty breathtaking number of things that they've just been working on, in addition to all the other things they do as a technology company. So they revealed AI for wildlife tracking, for flood forecasting. They have an AI powered maternal health feature or app that they're working on where they can actually assess certain aspects of health of a fetus in the womb. There's an AI app that is helping people detect early sight conditions that, if they're untreated, could lead to blindness. And you use just a smartphone and take a picture of your eyes to do that. And there's also an AI model that speaks the world's 1,000 most spoken languages. In addition to that, they also revealed at an event that they have now self-coding robots. So these are robots that can autonomously generate new code. So Axios, which reported on this, a reporter illustrated what this looks like. They said Google told a robot hovering over three plastic bowls. The bowls were red, blue, and green, and each bowl had three pieces of candy: Skittles, M&Ms, and Reese's. And the reporter told the robot that they like M&Ms and that their bowl was blue. And the robot placed the correct candy in the right bowl, even though it wasn't directly, programmed or told to do that. So essentially on the fly, a text prompt, a natural language prompt the machine was able to interpret that and essentially rewrite its rules to perform an outcome. And last but not least, they also released AI for fiction writing, which several professional writers are experimenting with to generate realistic fiction stories. So, as a final part of this reveal, Sundar Pichai, the CEO, said, quote, "AI is the most profound technology we are working on, yet these are still the early days." So this is a crazy set of developments and very wide ranging. So I wanted to ask you kind of a two-part question about this. So first, do any of these kind of jump out to you as particularly interesting or significant? And second, could you maybe connect the dots on the bigger picture here for us? These are all really cool ideas, but what do they really say about Google's broader commitment to AI and AI innovation?
Yeah, it's a lot. And so this would fall into the realm of, I have this AI list on Twitter. I think I've spoken before about this. The main way I use Twitter is I just build curated lists and I try and avoid the rest of the noise and I just follow my list. My news, sports, science, AI are kind of my main ones. And then I get alerts from very specific, usually most of them are entrepreneurs. So Sundar is actually one of the people I would get alerts from when he tweets. And so when I saw this announcement, I thought, okay, like, well, what of this is actually important? And so I just go look at Sundar's tweets, and so he led with the language model. So I will default to like I assume that's extremely important, and then I dug in a little bit, and that one is kind of cool because he actually linked to an article that was 3 ways AI is scaling helpful technologies worldwide, and they talk about the language one, and I didn't appreciate I knew the complexity of the problem. I didn't appreciate the scale of that complexity, like how big of a challenge this really is. It's almost, well, it says, we're announcing 1,000 languages initiative, an ambitious commitment to build an AI model that will support the 1,000 most spoken languages, bringing greater inclusion to billions of people in marginalized communities all around the world. This will be a many years undertaking. Some may even call it a moonshot, but we have a path to do it, basically. So that's massive. And the challenge is, and I've read about this before, but basically there are a lot of languages that lack training data. Like, English, we have infinite amounts of training data. If you start getting into languages that are, the lower level of that top 1,000, there just isn't that much data to train it. So you have to build AI models that enable you to learn with less data. So Google and Meta have been working on stuff, and I'm sure there's others that have been working at this as well. So that one jumps out to me as important, as you know, important for society. Um, my ears always perk up when I hear things related to Lambda, like anything where they're sharing more of the Lambda model and showing more of what it's capable of doing. I think we talked on a recent episode about AI, their AI test kitchen, where you can actually play with Lambda and have it finish ideas for you, tell it where you are, and it kind of helps tell stories. So it was top of mind for me because our friend Joe Blitzy, who had founded and sold Content Marketing Institute, had just in his newsletter last week started experimenting with language technology. And so he was showing its ability to write in his newsletter. And he said, like, what? Yeah, I think he said something like, it's not ready to write fiction yet. And ironically, that was the day this news came out. And one of the things Google announced was this Wordcraft writers tool that builds on Lambda that you had talked about, where they worked with these fictional writers to actually let these people experiment with Lambda, the language model, in new ways to tell these fictitious stories. And so anytime you start to see these language models going beyond just finishing a predicting the next word or finishing a sentence, and you start to look at these more creative, impactful ways that these language models are learning and being able to actually write and assist us. I mean, I could read about that stuff all day long because I think it's the great unknown right now. It's how quick is this language technology going to improve? How is it going to affect writing, journalism, business, marketing, sales? And there aren't great answers. And I think a lot of the research labs have very bullish viewpoints on how big of an impact language models will have and how quickly it's going to happen. And I don't know that the rest of us comprehend that. And like I've said before, I feel like their confidence level in how quickly this is going to happen seems to be rising. And I just continue to feel like we're just not ready. Like people aren't aware of what's about to happen. And so, yeah, the language stuff, the Lambda stuff is always intriguing to me. And then at that high level, mentioned Sundar's quote of AI is the most profound technology we're working on. We use that quote in like every presentation I give. It's in every keynote I do about, it's the most important thing humanity's ever worked on, more profound than electricity or fire. It's just reiterating the fact that Google and the other major tech companies are racing forward, building insanely smart technology that is going to start trickling into all aspects of our lives, from amazing social good things to very practical applications in writing. And then I saw like their test kitchen, they're going to open their image generation model as one of the next demos in the AI test kitchen, which you can register to, get access to that app. It's really cool. It's free. And so they're going to let you start playing around with their version of image, text to image. So there's a lot to unpack, honestly. There's a lot of stuff announced at one time.
Yeah, I think that's what also struck me and would be smart for our audience to remember is that while all of these projects are extremely different and in different areas of science, technology, and business, there is a fair amount sometimes of overlap with AI's ability to be used in these kind of other domains that aren't necessarily the one in which it was built in and trained in. And I think that's when you say things like language models, people don't realize just how crazy things are about to get. Language models aren't just, this isn't about saying, oh my gosh, AI can write fiction, where people don't realize how crazy language AI is going to be because it'll write fiction books. Yeah, that'll happen. But also, the ability for it to understand language is helping robots respond to commands. It's helping, uh, image generators understand the relationship between objects. This kind of technology has wider applications. If they crack the code on language, they crack the code on a lot of other things, I think, as well.
One other thing that jumped out to me is the connecting the dots. I mean, for years when we started researching artificial intelligence, going back to like 2011, there weren't business case studies about it. There weren't talks about use cases in marketing and sales. So we spent years just reading about innovations coming out of research labs and academia and trying to connect the dots of, well, what's going to happen when that comes to marketing and sales. And I see aspects of this in a news dump like what Google did, where like I see wildfire tracking example. Okay, if I'm an insurance carrier, if I
Mm,
had no idea that Google had wildfire tracking capabilities, I would certainly be on the phone right now trying to figure out how do we infuse that into our underwriting? How do we mitigate risk? How do we do real-time claims when we can predict wildfires are going to impact people we insure? Same with flood forecasting. Flood's a massive element of the insurance industry and real estate industry. So I would just like, but are those executives paying attention to what Google? I don't know, but if I worked in those industries, I would absolutely be trying to connect dots and say, well, what does this mean to us? How's this going to affect what we do, and what are the opportunities here? How can we move and get access to this kind of information quicker and infuse it into our product and our business? Like, and I think that's the beauty of AI right now is there is a chance to reinvent almost every business and every industry. And it's going to be driven by the major research labs and tech companies. There's going to be, these startups like OpenAI with their Converge program. You're going to have people pop up and say, well, I'm going to build on your language model for the insurance industry or for healthcare or whatever. And so you're going to get innovation that'll happen through these small startups, but a lot of this is just, I mean, Google has massive research teams and R&D budgets for AI, and the stuff they're going to pump out is going to be so hard to comprehend. And we just need more business leaders paying attention and connecting the dots because it's going to move fast.